WWE terminate a contract over tweets. Is there heat on LA Knight? My review of AEW Dynamite and more. I'm Luke Owen and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
I said on Monday's WrestleTalk News that we do read your comments on all of these videos, and I always appreciate any comment that you leave, whether positive or negative. So I'm aware, I know that there's this perception right now that WrestleTalk are anti-WWE because we only ever report bad stories about the company. Some of you will post things like, "You're always so negative," or you may as well call it AEW talk at this point, or "Bloody hell, Luke is always so handsome, I want to touch his arms." To be clear, we don't have an anti-AEW agenda or anything like that. We're not on the Khan coin of either Khan in wrestling. We just talk about the wrestling news as it happens. And I would like to say, in our defense, WWE aren't exactly doing themselves any favors at the moment. Ollie Davies covered in yesterday's WrestleTalk News that WWE decided not to renew the contract of Ridge Holland, real name Luke Menzies. Holland had a busy run in WWE, going from NXT to the main roster, then back to NXT, then off to Evolve, winning titles along the way and even main eventing Survivor Series inside War Games. The reason this was controversial was because Menzies is currently injured, an injury he suffered while representing WWE in TNA, and he tweeted in response to his contract not being renewed, "I feel like I've just been hung out to dry after getting injured working for another company on behalf of WWE. Add to that my contract not being renewed, knowing I wouldn't be able to wrestle for 7 months. This is brutal. Talk about getting totally funked." But perhaps this will go down as a case of should just keep your opinions to yourself, as the consequences of his tweeting actions have now come to light, as Fightful Select report that due to Menzies' tweets, WWE have decided to terminate his contract early, effectively releasing him. Fightful add the deal was originally set to go until mid-November, of which he'd be paid. It was strongly suggested that he won't be paid for the remaining period. Fightful add that WWE will continue to pay for Menzies' injury and rehab, which they had been doing previously, especially as there probably would be legal issues for them if they didn't. Like, I get it, Menzies probably had a non-disparagement clause in his contract, and those tweets probably did breach that. But this really does feel like a message being sent to talent, and I really don't think that WWE cares about the bad press it gives them. Speaking of punishment, and there's been a lot of online speculation about WWE possibly punishing LA Knight. Yeah, Knight is such an interesting character within WWE. At one point he felt like the most over guy in the entire company that wasn't in the main event scene. I think back to the reaction our live audience gave him at our watch party for Money in the Bank 2023 in London. But clearly, WWE see a certain ceiling for him. While on SmackDown he had dabbles in the mix of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, but he was never going to win the WWE Championship. He was moved over to Raw, where again he can be in the mix for the top title, but he's clearly positioned below CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Jey Uso. And it's to Jey Uso we must now turn, as this is where the train pulls into speculation station. Last week on Raw, during the entrance for his match with Bron Breakker, Knight grabbed a sign from the crowd that said they wanted to see him and not Jey Uso. This was 5 days before Jey Uso was set to be in the main event of a show for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. A fan having that sign is one thing. A wrestler highlighting that sign is another. It led to some speculation that Knight is being punished. One YouTube channel even suggested that WWE tried to edit the sign off TV by putting Knight's name bar over it. This speculation was exacerbated when Knight was not on Raw this week, nor was he mentioned by name. It led to someone to message Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select to ask if Knight really is being punished for the sign, to which SRS replied, no. Even if he was, what are they going to do? Make him lose 2 matches a night instead of 1? They're paying the guy good money and swimming upstream to avoid pushing him. He adds he's certainly not going to get in trouble for holding a sign regarding a guy he's had a program with on WWE TV. And as if to balance out the anti-WWE comments that will likely be left on this video, a wrestler has called out AEW for their new title. Oh, AEW, when will you ever learn? If there's one thing that Tony Khan clearly loves as a promoter, it's wrestling title belts. This year alone has seen AEW introduce the women's tag team titles, the ROH Women's Pure Championship, and they realized they had so many men's mid-card titles they merged the international and continental championships together into one unified championship. But hold the phone, I know what you're thinking. Well, we've just got rid of one mid-card title. What if we introduced another one. Ahead of last night's Dynamite, Tony Khan made the announcement on social media that AEW would be introducing a new national championship at Full Gear in a casino gauntlet. The first names announced for the match are Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin of the Hurt Syndicate and the demand of Ricochet and GOA. The title is a direct reference to the NWA National Championship, which is fairly unsurprising given how much Tony Khan clearly loves wrestling history. That title was previously defended on TBS, hence why it's been given that name. The NWA National Championship was merged in 1986 with the NWA United States Championship in a match between Nikita Koloff and Wahoo McDaniel to become just the United States Championship, which, fun fact, is the official lineage that leads to the title currently held by Ilya Dragunov in WWE. The National Championship was reactivated in 1997 as the NWA tried to get some form of relevance during the Monday Night War, and it made another comeback in 2018 after it was vacated in 2017 when Billy Corgan took over the NWA. AEW's National Championship is not and will not be affiliated with NWA's current version of that belt or the original version of that title, which is now in WWE. It is its own thing. But on Dynamite, they did say it is a title that has been held by the likes of Dusty Rhodes and Wahoo McDaniel, which was designed to make this new title feel like it has the lineage of the old title. The problem there is that title and lineage is currently held by someone in the form of Mike Mondo, who wrestling fans might remember as Mikey from the Spirit Squad. And Mondo has taken issue with AEW claiming their new title is akin to the old national championship that he currently holds, tweeting, "Let me be clear, there is only one NWA and there is only one prestigious national championship that holds legit lineage and has for decades. So to Tony Khan or anyone else confused, here's the legit title with the company it belongs to and the legit national champion." I wanted to cover this because A, it's wrestling news and this is the WrestleTalk news, B, wrestling history from the 80s is fun and weird to look at times, and C, to lolla AEW introducing yet another mid-card title just months after getting rid of a mid-card title. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but this is a really dumb idea. I get the reasons behind it due to history and all that, but this company does not need another belt gimmick. It does not need another prop. And when you have so many titles, they can just feel like that. Props. Just something that people hold on to with no actual prestige or value. As an example, Mercedes Moné winning the ROH Women's TV Championship at WrestleDream, like, great, it's another belt for Moné on that gimmick which I really like, but that belt means sweet FA in the grand scheme of things. I'd wager most people watching this video didn't even know that belt existed before Moné won it from Mina Shirakawa. I think back to the Invasion in 2001 when Mick Foley buried how many titles there were on TV because WWF had their own titles as well as WCW's, when he said on screen no less, "If you don't have a title right now, you really suck." Look, Tony, I get it. You like belts, but this is getting beyond parody. And now this might just be me here, but it feels like this title has only been created because Bobby Lashley isn't going to win the world title anytime soon, and this means he can now have a title and a division of his own where he can beat people. But it is Thursday, so you know what that means. It's time for my review of AEW Dynamite, which opened with Tony Schiavone in the ring to talk about this new national championship. But wait, is that really Tony Schiavone? How can we be sure this isn't Hangman Page again? The Ops had similar questions when they came down to the ring. Joe had been informed that Tony Schiavone had nothing to do with Page's attack last week, and he didn't collude with him in any way. But Joe finds that hard to believe, and the consequences of his actions are now coming to get him. So security ran down to stop Joe and the Ops attacking Tony Schiavone, and Hangman ran in for the save. But Joe was happy about that because now he gets to beat up Hangman Page. So Page's partners for the main event, Hook and Eddie Kingston, ran down to even up the odds. Hook made the challenge for the Ops to put the trios titles on the line tonight, which Joe angrily accepted. This was a fun opening segment and it added some stakes for the main event, but boy oh boy do I wish there was something better for Eddie Kingston to do. Speaking of stakes, AEW are presenting a series of matches for the advantage in Blood and Guts next week. Now, this is pretty standard, one member of each team has a match and the winner of that match, which should always be the heel, gets the advantage for their team. But in a neat twist, they're going to do a series of advantage matches. 2 here on Dynamite for the men's side of things, with a 3rd booked for Collision if it's needed, and 1 women's match here on Dynamite with a 2nd booked for Collision along with a 3rd if that is needed. It's a nice way of giving the babyfaces a bit of momentum heading into the match, even though the heels will win overall. The first of those matches saw Claudio Castagnoli beat Orange Cassidy in a brilliant match built around the freakish strength of Claudio. There was a fun sequence as Cassidy tried to put his hands in his pockets to give him that +5 speed buff, but Claudio kept shutting him him down with power moves. Cassidy did get his comeback, but fell to the pop-up uppercut. Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher agreed to another TNT Championship match, but the steps are that if Mark loses, he must join the Don Callis family. Callis also gave the Bucks a deadline to join their faction or not. They also hilariously announced that Full Gear will see Kenny Omega team with Jurassic Express to take on the Bucks and Josh Alexander in a $1 million match. Such a ludicrous amount of money for a wrestling match. The Babes of Wrath of Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron surprisingly bested Mercedes Moné and Athena to advance in the women's tag team tournament and will face the Sisters of Sin in the semi-finals. It was a really good match, and the finish saw Billy Starks try to interfere but was cut off by Chris Statlander. The Hurt Syndicate and The Demand did a promo segment about the national championship, and Darby Allin beat Daniel Garcia to even up the score in the Advantage War. This told a great in-ring story of Garcia leaving his comfort zone of submission wrestling to punish Allin with more hardcore style spots. But that was a bad strategy because it played right into Darby's strengths. And in the end, Darby actually out-wrestled Garcia as he transitioned out of the Dragon Tamer into the Scorpion Deathlock to get the win. The Death Riders then brawled with Team Good Guy. FTR cut a promo on Bandito's grandmother while Bro Dido were locked in a room backstage. Hilariously, Brody then punched through this door to run out for a brawl. I enjoyed this a lot, including the grandmother being about as good of an actor as Lyra Valkyria. Megan Bayne beat Mina Shirakawa to go 1-up in the Advantage War on the women's side, and then all the participants brawled in what was essentially just a copy and paste of the men's segment. And the main event saw the Ops retain their trios titles over Hangman Adam Page, Eddie Kingston, and Hook in a brilliant match. The story was that the Ops removed each of the good guys one by one, taking out Hook during the heat spot by working over his back and eliminating Page with a hop slam off the stage through a table, which left Eddie Kingston on his own. But no one man has more heart than Eddie Kingston. Wasn't enough though, as despite a valiant effort, Hook tapped out to a Hobbs torture rack. This was a really good edition of Dynamite, marred only by a few repetitive brawling segments and the announcement of a title I really could not care about. Ollie had more on the Luke Menzies contract situation in yesterday's WrestleTalk news, so check that out if you haven't already.